It's NFL Pro Bowl week, and although there's no games this week, and it's the first time in a while, granted, getting the NFL and college football, there's plenty of time to reflect on the season, talk about all the great moments that we're going to remember forever, as well as looking at the big game here in just about a week and a half. So if you enjoy, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. Let's kick it off here with the big game. Super Bowl 59. Of course, the Eagles come in as a bit of an underdog, but it's really just a pick 'em. Who do you think's going to win as the Eagles come into this game? 16-3 on the season, and the Chiefs are 17-2. Now, the Eagles have been more dominant. I'll say that, right? This is a team that, throughout three playoff games compared to the Chiefs, two, are averaging 35 points per game, and they're only allowing 18. They're coming off, of course, a 55-point rout on their division rival in the Washington Commanders, a team that won seven straight heading into that bout. Now, the Chiefs, they're going for history, going for a three-peat, something that no team has ever, accomplished, right? I think the Patriots attempted to do it and lost to the Eagles back in the Nick Foles legendary game, but they didn't get the job done. The Chiefs have a chance to now write history and become the first team to do something that's never been done. So, Patrick Mahomes, if he ever wants to be in the GOAT debate, I think this is something he needs to have on his resume, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm not going to give you guys a prediction in this video. All I will say is, hey, the both rosters, I think the most talented they've ever been in these eras, respectfully for each team. I think this is the best Mahomes team we've ever seen, and I think this is the best Jalen Hurts team we've ever seen at the NFL level. So it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be just as, if not more entertaining, as the game from a few years ago. The last thing, the Chiefs have decided to wear white in this game. Why is that important? Well, the team that has wore white jerseys in 16 of the last 20 Super Bowls have come out victorious. So the Chiefs are on the side of history in this one, and they're trying to do any little, thing they can to host their third straight Lombardi Trophy. It should be a great game here in just 2 weeks' time. For the Pro Bowl watchers, that of course kicks off tonight. It's a little bit different of a format. I think in history, it's usually been a 2-day event, which it still is this year, but it's usually back-to-back days. This year, the first day of the skills competitions will be tonight, of course, Thursday, January 30th, at 7 p.m. Eastern, and then it's going to be the same time on Sunday for the flag football game. So it's a little bit weird there that they have that many days in between. But if you want to fill your time in between Thursday and Sunday, on Saturday, I know we're jumping around here. Stick with me. On Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we have the Senior Bowl for the college football fans out there. So again, if you want football on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, there you go, right? Senior Bowl on Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. I know I'm going to be tuned in. I have a lot of draft coverage, just like I did last year, coming your way. Now, again, if you want something Saturday night, this is not for you guys there, for the general media, but the Royal Rumble is Saturday night. It's always a fun event, whether if you're a wrestling fan or not. WWE is on fire at the moment, but the Pro Bowl, again, it's going to be a bit of a stretched out event this season. Now, let's get into the season, right? 2024, going into this year, there's a lot of, expectations. We knew, of course, the big storyline. We thought Kansas City, if they could stay healthy, they got a chance at this thing to win 3 in a row. And look at us now, right? 20 plus weeks later, they are exactly where America projected them to be. But here we go. Let's just get into it. My favorite storyline of the year has been the running back resurgence. And I know you're going to hear this everywhere else, but after last season, we really started to get to a point where the Giants felt like, yeah, we know Saquon's a generational talent at the running back position, but we don't really need to pay him because running backs aren't important anymore. Well, that was the first big name to hit the free agency market. And then Derrick Henry, despite being in Tennessee for like what seemed like 15 years, he hit the free agency market for the first time in his career. And then Josh Jacobs as well. Of course, he was with Vegas or Oakland, the Raiders, regardless, for many, many years. So we had 3 great running backs. Joe Mixon as well, right? All 4 of these guys were technically on the market. and they all found new homes and they all dominated this season. Joe Mixon was really the most consistent player for that Houston offense all season long. Josh Jacobs was the reason why this Packers team won 11, 12 games and almost won a playoff game there against the Eagles, despite how badly or how, I guess, how poorly they played in that first round. For Derrick Henry, I mean, over 2,000 rushing yards. He was the runaway, no pun intended, offensive player of the year the first half of the season until Saquon, of course, took over, and he is probably going to be the offensive player of the year in Saquon Barkley, another running back, over 2,000 rushing yards. And if you just watch this playoff run alone, you can see Saquon's electric. He is a jolt to this offense, and this offense is not necessarily an offense that likes to rely on their passing game like they did when they made the Super Bowl just a few years ago. This year, it's different. It's give Saquon the ball and get out the way because as we saw, that he can single-handedly change the momentum in a game. We saw Washington drive down, first drive, 18-play drive, and score, right? Commanding first drive, no pun intended. But then the Eagles get the ball. How are they going to respond to such a great and dominant drive from the Commanders? Well, you just give the ball to number 26. He runs the ball for 80 yards, right? And they score a touchdown on his first touch of the game. These running backs this year have they've added value back to the position, and I don't think any longer we're going to say, well, we're just not going to pay our running back because we can replace him with maybe one or two people for a quarter of the price. Now, I do think there's still some truth to that, right? I don't think the running back is going to be the best player on a championship team anymore, but who knows? I guess Saquon is proving me wrong with that argument I just made. The second one, we're going to stick with Saquon here, and I think this is just a moment. His hurdle backwards is going to be something, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to be something that we see on those NFL, right? Those main NFL highlight tapes before and after and during every single season for the next 25 years at least. This is a highlight that we're going to see of him hurtling backwards, right, with a defender coming at him. It's something we've never seen, and it's something that is going to be in the history books forever. So you guys remember the moment. If you don't, check it out on YouTube. Absolutely insane highlight. Saquon, that move is going to be immortalized forever. I just hope so many kids don't try it and get themselves seriously hurt because you're just not the athlete like Saquon Barkley. Now, Mike Evans, another historic moment that I don't think we're going to remember after next season because Mike Evans this year tied Jerry Rice for 11 straight seasons with 1,000 receiving yards in a year. And I think this is incredibly impressive for this reason. To start the year, he didn't really come out firing, right? This was Chris Godwin's team. Chris Godwin was leading the team in targets, receptions, yards, touchdowns. He was the main focal point of this offense, and Mike Evans was just there to be, again, a great number two, even though he's not the number two, but he was the number two most targeted player in this offense. Godwin started this year off incredibly hot, right? And then he went down around the midseason mark. Mike Evans didn't start the year great, and he also battled some injuries, really carrying him into like week 10 or week 11. So for him to end off the season on a 2-month stretch of just dominance to still get 1,000 yards is incredible, right? But I think next year he's going to get 1,000 yards again, and we're not going to remember this moment, at least not as much as the Saquon hurdle moment, which is right above it. And number 4, the fair catch free kick. Say that 10 times fast. The Chargers, Broncos, of course, Thursday night game, I believe. And the Chargers did something that hasn't been done since the 70s. It was the first time I've ever seen it, of course, in my lifetime. I'm sure the same can be said about a lot of you that were watching that game. You just knew Jim Harbaugh was just waiting to pull that out. You just know he was studying the rule book, and he said, one day I'm going to pull this out. I know he tried to do it at Michigan once upon a time, and he wasn't able to actually do it. And I didn't really know what it was, but to see it in live action is actually insane. And for it to work is, again, even more so insane. So for the fair catch free kick, imagine we see that in the Super Bowl. That'd be something absolutely insane. But it's something I'm not going to forget now, and it's something I'm going to look out for going forward thanks to Jim Harbaugh. At number 5, I think could be the biggest thing that I'm going to take away from the 2024 season. It's the parity. Man, I think we had so many unexpected breakouts. Teams like Minnesota right? I think we all kind of expected them to be okay. Sam Darnold's going to be a bridge quarterback. He might start 4 or 5 weeks, and then JJ will take over. Well, JJ got hurt, and then Sam Darnold had to step up. They ended up being a 14-win team, the first ever team in NFL history, by the way, to win 14 games and not get a bye in the playoffs. They were also the first 14-win 5 seed in NFL history. Minnesota, incredible season. Excited to see what they do here in just a couple weeks in free agency with most notably Sam Darnold. But again, it was a great season. I think Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores showed how dominant, I guess, they were as coaches. And this roster, with all the talent that they do have, they were maximized, to put it lightly. Even though the season didn't end the way they wanted, to get to that point, despite everybody doubting you, is incredibly impressive. So the unexpected breakout and dominance from Minnesota was nice to see. Now, Denver, on the other hand, look, last year we had so many questions. Russell Wilson was gone in Denver. Who's going to be their quarterback, one? And then two, is Sean Payton still going to be a good coach in this era of football? Can he adapt to this game and to this era of football? We had so many questions. Is he even a good coach anymore? And, for a team like the Broncos that were heading into the season, unsure of the two most important positions, the coach and the quarterback, it didn't look like they were going to have a great year, maybe a 4 or 5 win season, but they got their point guard. They got their experienced rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, and he ran Sean Payton's offense, I won't say to perfection, but he ran it pretty damn good. They got to the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen, with a subpar offense as far as the weapons around their rookie quarterback and Bo Nix. And, there was a split second. There was a split second in that Buffalo Bills game where that first drive, they drove down pretty easily and they scored a touchdown. And we said, holy shit, right? This Denver Broncos team might actually put up a fight in this game. They might actually give the Bills a run for this game. And then the Bills scored off like 35 straight. But we weren't expecting this team to get to that point, the Denver Broncos. And I think they have a very exciting future now that they have their quarterback. Now let's go out there and get him some help. Let's go out there and add a Tetairoa McMillan, right, out of Arizona, a Luther Burden, Savion Williams down the board. Let's just add some weapons to this offense and give Bo Nix a legitimate number one or number two outside of Courtland Sutton. Big Sutton fan, but they're going to need some help around him as far as a legitimate, solidified option. Let me just say that. Also, number 5, for the 5th reason, Washington's the biggest one, right? Washington to take a rookie quarterback and a first-year head coach with this new team and Dan Quinn, and to go to the NFC title game, right? There was a point at the midseason mark where they were 7-5, and we were saying, well, Washington, they might not make the playoffs. They've been a great season, but Atlanta will probably edge them out, or another team in the NFC might edge them out, like Seattle, to get that final playoff spot. But no, they kept winning those key games after key games. They won 7 straight games, including 2 games on the road in the playoffs against great offenses in Tampa Bay and Detroit. And to put up a fight in that NFC title game for that first quarter or so, again, as a rookie quarterback on the road, it's incredibly impressive. It's unprecedented. It's not typically what we've seen in history. And it's safe to say that Washington, maybe out of any team in the league, has the best young quarterback going forward. But again, there's a lot of people that you could throw in that argument. But incredible seasons, right? Minnesota, Denver, Washington. On the flip side of that, we'll talk about some teams in a moment that disappointed this year. But at number 6, it's my record. Look, I started this podcast week 6, 2 seasons ago in the 2023 or 2022 season, one of those seasons, right? But ever since then, I kind of wanted to chase 2 things when I was giving you guys my picks every single week. If you're new to the channel, that's what we do on these Thursday episodes. We predict that upcoming week's slate, and I've been chasing 200 total wins and 70% correct rate. They usually take care of each other, but still, that's something I have been chasing since I started this channel. This year, we did it. We were 202 and 80 on the picks straight up every single week. And you might say, okay, why are you telling me these useless numbers? Well, I don't see any of these experts out there on the media, on different channels or different websites, different blogs that you might read on a weekly basis. They're around 65, 70, right? And I'm at 71%, I believe is what I'm at the moment. If not a little bit lower at 70, but I'm right. I'm above these experts. Let's just say that, and I'm just some kid that loves the game of football and loves to provide content for you guys at home. So my record, again, is something that I'm going to take away from this season. Next year, we're going to try and get even better. Try and go for like 215 wins next year. Now, the ups and the downs from this year, I want to look at the team that I think was the most unexpected team and the team that I think was the most disappointing team here. Now, like I just mentioned, Washington has just as good of an argument as any team, but I wanted to show some love to Minnesota. Again, 14-4. We talked about how great they were this year. They were the fifth seed in the NFC, and despite losing their first game, they're still 14-4. Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores, it looks like they're staying in Minnesota for next season. So they're going to be set up for success going into next year. And I know everybody wants to bring up all this drama around who's their quarterback. I think that's a great problem to have. And I think JJ McCarthy needed some time to rest or sit behind and learn the game. So that injury that he had might actually be a blessing in disguise to continue learning from these incredible coaches and experienced quarterbacks. The most disappointing team. Now, if you go back to my channel before the season, please don't, by the way. Um, you can tell by the thumbnail that I was really high on this Jets team. Now, was it a little bit fabricated? Absolutely. But for the Jets team, I really thought coming into this season that they could win 9, 10, 11 games and make the playoffs and maybe make a deep run into the playoffs because I looked at their roster and I said, they're so talented. They're so complete top to bottom. And Aaron Rodgers just needs to do the bare minimum. And this team, with their coaching staff and their aggressiveness from their coaching staff, they're going to be able to be a legitimate contender in the AFC playoffs. And I really thought that with their defense, they give the Chiefs problems, but that just has been anything. It's so far from the truth. It's absolutely mind-boggling. 5-12 on the year. They were they're the 26th team, best team in the league. So of course they're heading into this NFL draft with a pretty nice draft pick. But this is a team that just didn't, it was excuse after excuse, close loss after close loss. They just couldn't put anything together consistently. And this is a team that, again, disappointed, I think, not only New York fans, but pretty much a lot of the media that were behind this team before the season. I am not going to fall into this trap again next year. Let's just say that. Now, the last thing I want to touch on before we get out of here is the future of the Detroit Lions, the team that everybody wanted to see win the Super Bowl last year. This year, we said, hey, they're running it back. They got a real chance to do it again, and they did it until they ran into the Commanders. But let's talk about it because there's a lot of uncertainty now for a franchise that we looked like they're in the best situation possible to actually make a serious run at the Lombardi Trophy. Taking a quick trip down memory lane. 2 years ago in the playoffs, they won 2 games, of course, to start their playoff run, and they made it to the NFC title game. Now, in that matchup, of course, they faced the San Francisco 49ers, and if you guys remember, they were up 2 scores at halftime. But in that second half, they got too aggressive. They made too many analytical decisions, and they didn't use their football minds. I really believe that they just took their points in that game. Of course, hindsight is 2020, but they would have at least won it there to get to the Super Bowl, which would have been the first in franchise's history. But the positive coming out of that game, you now have the experience for a lot of your young players. And, of course, everyone, including the coaching staff, decided to run it back. So you're not only bringing everyone back, you got your coaches coming back, and you're going to be even better going into this past season. But the result was actually worse. You lost your first playoff game at home at Ford Field to a rookie quarterback. And not only that, they hung like 40, 50 points on you in that game. And now you have questions going into next season. One, we start with your quarterback, Jared Goff. I know he's like a top 10, top 15 quarterback, but to throw 4 interceptions in a game is something that it's going to always be in the back of your mind until he proves you wrong, until he actually wins some of these big-time games. Yet again, you're going to have that in the back of your mind. Can we trust this dude in those big-time moments? Do we want to do we rely on his arm in some of these bigger games going forward? Because this is always going to be in the back of your mind, right? The other big question is when you lose all of these candidates and potentially some free agents, can you recover from this in one off season? I understand you're going to get fully healthy, and I understand the draft is right around the corner as well as free agency. So the roster should be even better next season. But with the quarterback questions and then the coordinator questions, are you going to be able to bounce back from this loss mentally? And then also, are you going to be able to bounce back from losing such good head coach quality coordinators that were on the sideline for the last couple of years? In one off season, it just seems like it's a bit of a stretch. I could see this team being, I guess underwhelming to start next season. They could be the Niners next year, but I don't think they're going to go 5-12. I think the Lions might be a team where you win 9, 10 games, maybe 11, and then you go into the playoffs and we're all saying, hey, the Lions can actually win this thing even though they're the sixth seed. That's just something to look out for here in Detroit. But they had it all going into this year. Everything seemed to be right except for the health of this team. And they lost yet again here. And they lost not only the game, but a lot of key pieces going forward. But let me know in the comments what you think. How confident are you in the Lions going forward? I think they still have an incredible roster, but it's the little things around the roster that I worry about going forward. Of course, I still think that they will be able to contend next year if they bring back the same mentality. But that is episode 248, NFL Pro Bowl week. Next week is a huge week. Of course, you guys love the NBA Power Rankings, and those are coming back. So the NBA Power Rankings at the start of every single month. For February, that video will be on Monday or Tuesday. And next Thursday is the NFL Super Bowl 59 special. Every single year we do this. And for the second time in 3 years of this channel, it's between the Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. Coincidentally, every year I've had this podcast, the Chiefs have won the Super Bowl. So maybe I am their good luck. Of course, whatever, right? I need to do that for my Cleveland Browns. But let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. And we drop consistently every single week. And of course, we're on the road to 18,000 subscribers. So if you enjoyed, help us out down below. And I'll see you guys next week. Until then, let's go enjoy the Senior Bowl.